Good evening. Can attend cabinet meetings. We have the details for you. And we also do have an exclusive interview right here for you. O'Brien, if you could tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, absolutely. Good evening and thank you very much. And of course, tonight we want to focus on food insecurity in Kenya.
Yes.
Some very not so interesting statistics indicate that in the World Hunger Index, Kenya is ranked as position 86 out of 117 countries in the world. And the question is, how do we deal with this crisis? How do we end hunger in the Republic of Kenya? That will be our conversation tonight. And guess who is joining us? He's an agricultural economist and as well a former presidential advisor on food security and climate change. This is Dr. James Nyoro. He's also the governor of Kiambu County.
Yes, great experience right there. I've interviewed him a few times, so I know today we'll find out a lot. Thank you for that.
Very good.
Well, we'll also have in business Tax 101, and this is from one of you who suggested the topic that we are going to have tonight. That and more coming up shortly after the highlights. He is a stranger. High Court bars Nairobi Metropolitan Service Director Major Mohamed Badi from cabinet meetings.
Proper and clear recommendation on what needs to be done in this particular area to ensure that our people are not living as slaves out there.
Keep off Saudi Arabia. Ministry of Foreign Affairs warns domestic workers against seeking employment in the Gulf region.
Our communities, and indeed every citizen, must also play their part.
And we all have a duty. President Uhuru Kenyatta urges Kenyans to help government in securing the nation. Now, the High Court has declared the decision to have Nairobi Metropolitan Service Director Major General Mohamed Badi attend cabinet meetings as illegal. In a petition filed by Kandara Member of Parliament Alice Wahome, the court ruled that allowing Major Badi to attend cabinet meetings contravenes the Constitution and is illegal and void. Skills, okay. The 6 police officers linked to the death of the 2 Kianjakoma brothers will wait until 1st October for a mention on their bail application. The officers, through their lawyers, have argued that there is no compelling reason or evidence to warrant their continued stay behind bars.
The 6 police officers, through their legal counsel, have argued that they were never subjected to an inquest and that their arraignment in court was as a result of public pressure and was neither backed by facts nor evidence.
They cannot access police weapons, not even their uniforms.
What material have they placed before you, my lord, today to show that there was interference, actual or perceived?
The prosecution also argues that the accused are police officers with all powers and privileges and that they could influence witnesses if released on bail. The prosecution further says the continued detainment of the accused is in the best interest of the bereaved family. The mention on the bail application is set for the 1st of October. For Prime Edition, I'm Serafina Robbie.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you, Sarafina, for that report. President Uhuru Kenyatta has urged Kenyans to play their civic duty of securing the country, saying it is not a preservative of the state security machinery. Speaking during the presentation of the presidential and regiment colors to the Kenya Navy Manda Bay base, the president pointed out that the multifaceted nature of security challenges facing the country calls for greater cooperation between citizens and the nation's security agencies.
The head of state spoke Thursday at the Kenyan Navy Manda Bay base, where he called for the collaborative approach geared towards a safer Kenya.
And all of us have a role to play. The multifaceted security challenges that we face demand greater cooperation between our security agencies. At present, a compartmentalized view of security is no longer acceptable, nor is it tenable.
On the role played by the Kenyan Navy Manda Bay in the country's complex security architecture, the head of state said the frontline military installation plays a critical role in defending Kenya's sovereignty, maintaining territorial integrity and securing the nation's maritime borders.
And we are steadfastly committed to making the Boni area a peaceful and stable economic hub.
In order to fulfill the country's development agenda without external disruption, President Kenyatta said the expansion of the naval base's operational autonomy was meant to establish a military installation with adequate capacity to respond to all forms of enemy aggression. The event was attended by Kenyan Navy Commander Major General Jimson Mutai, Defense Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma and Lamu Governor Fahim Twaha. Yusuf Far reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is pushing for a temporary ban on the recruitment and exportation of Kenyan domestic workers to Saudi Arabia. Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Macharia Kamau, while appearing before the National Assembly Labour Committee, accused the Ministry of Labour and the National Employment Agency of bungling the recruitment process.
41 Kenyans have died in Saudi Arabia in the last 9 months. According to the Saudi, the deaths were majorly as a result of cardiac arrest. Members of parliament, however, say they are not buying into the report.
We have compared the deaths. So it's not possible that you have 3 deaths in Qatar, 1 in UAE, 2 in Kuwait, none in Oman, 2 in Bahrain, and you have 40, 50 in the other country. Because the numbers may be larger, it's true, but they're not that much larger. Number 2, it is not possible, and I said this in my introduction, that these young people are all dying of cardiac arrest.
The Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Macharia Kamau on Thursday told MPs that the deaths could have been avoided if the Ministry of Labour had ensured a meticulous recruitment of human resource to the Middle East.
The system of identification, training, organization for deployment, allocation to duties once they arrive there, that entire system is dysfunctional. We were under the impression that the Ministry of Labour, with the National Employment Agency, it's there, it exists, would do this job, because that is what they are mandated to do. They have not, for reasons known better, and I'm sure they will be here to explain themselves better than I can possibly do.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs wants the export of domestic labor halted until the safety of Kenyans in Saudi Arabia is adequately addressed.
This is priority number 1 for the work of this committee in the remaining period. If there are things that we want to leave behind, is proper and clear recommendation on what needs to be done in this particular area to ensure that our people are not living as slaves out there.
Over the last 9 months, Kenyans have been demanding answers on what the government is doing to address the plight of Kenyans in the Middle East.
Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit of the Anglican Church of Kenya is attributing the rampant poverty in the country to the influx of cheap counterfeit goods. Ole Sapit says it is unfortunate that the agriculture and the manufacturing sector is reeling from the effects of the contraband sector, which the government is looking into.
Speaking at the Provincial Synod of the Anglican Church of Kenya in Nairobi, Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit stated there was need to revolutionize the agriculture and manufacturing sector by supporting Kenyan farmers and manufacturers.
The even borrow and invest heavily in agriculture, some in the private sector and in leadership, import cheap products that cause glut in the market, hence lowering the prices to the extent that the farmer is not able to sell the produce at competitive prices. Malpractices in the manufacturing sector. These include importation of cheap counterfeit products which have equally created unfair competition for our manufacturers, making them incur heavy losses.
Ole Sapit challenged the government and other stakeholders to promote economic models that will attract foreign investors and empower all Kenyans for meaningful development.
We call upon the government institutions and agencies, technocrats, entrepreneurs to promote economic models that will make Kenya attract direct and foreign investors, and empowerment of all Kenyans to get involved in personal, meaningful development.
The Anglican Church of Kenya is also urging the government to listen to the voices of distressed Kenyans and bring down the cost of petroleum products.
As a church, we are standing with Kenyans who are crying because of high fuel prices that also translate into high cost of living.
Ole Sapit saying the nation was still struggling to get a footing from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, and it was unfortunate that prices of basic commodities shooting the roof.
Upon the government to cushion many Kenyans from hardship caused by high cost of living, such as tax reliefs.
Reporting for Prime Edition, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
Now, members of parliament say that IEBC broke the law in publishing the election campaign financing regulations. The guidelines put to cap finances that can be used by politicians in campaigns for the 2022 general elections.
IBC has not made any rules under Section 5 of the Act as required by law. Neither have they submitted the same to the National Assembly as required by Section 11(1) of the Statutory Instruments Act, which stipulates that all statutory instruments must be submitted for scrutiny.
This committee, in my opinion, rejected and annulled this regulation based on 4 key parameters. The first one is public participation. The second one is failure by IEBC to observe the timeline provided. The third one was to put the cart before the horse in publishing the Gazette notice before the approval of the House.
But given what we have been informed and the report that has given us, Honorable Speaker, I support and stand with the fact that we reject these regulations and possibly give the IBC time in future to make a proper regulation.
Commissioners are also trying to play the part of management. Let them now set their house in order and give Kenyans a better assurance that indeed IBC can be relied upon to conduct these watershed elections where we have, it's coming in at a time when we have a transition from an administration that is finishing its term to create a total vacancy where a new administration will be coming in.
The amount of money actually they spend on lawyers alone, the legal fees that they pay, Mr. Speaker, is millions of shillings, Mr. Speaker. The other the chair here just alluded that when they appeared before the committee on this regulation, they came with a battery of lawyers. See, all those lawyers will be paid properly, Mr. Speaker. But the fact of the matter is, the law was not followed when these regulations were made. Kenyans must be made aware that IEBC never followed the law.
Now on COVID-19 update, where the country's COVID-19 infection rate has dropped to 5.2% after 317 people tested positive for the disease in the last 24 hours. The Ministry of Health says the number was confirmed from a sample size of 6,129. The total number of confirmed cases now stands at 247,675. In the latest statistics, 27 more deaths have been recorded, all of them from late audits conducted in September this year. The death toll now stands at 5,045. Globally, over 230 million cases have been reported, with the number of fatalities standing at over 4.7 million as data from the Johns Hopkins University. Meanwhile, over 3.5 million COVID-19 vaccines have been administered nationwide. Now, moving on, a mobile clinic has been launched in Nairobi to take healthcare services closer to the working population. The Netherlands ambassador to Kenya, Martin Brouwer, says the initiative is a step towards achieving the government's agenda on universal health coverage.
Clinic installed in a bus has a fully equipped laboratory consisting of X-ray machines, PCR COVID-19 test kits, among other equipment required for diagnosis and treatment.
It is very inconvenient for employees and businesses if each time somebody needs a medical visit, they have to leave the workplace and go outside to look for care in the hospital setting. Now we know the overcrowding is not a good thing. The long wait times are not a good thing.
Meanwhile, scarce resources have been blamed as one of the causes of perennial conflicts along the Baringo-Turkana border. The conflict has led to loss of lives and displacement of families.
Wenyeji wanafukuzwa Kapedo, ifo hapa Nchamus, hapa kwa Tugene Ratuko, vitu kama hiyo. Sasa yeye hakuji kwa amani, anakuja na vita. Kwa hivyo mambo ya ukame iko namna hiyo.
In Migori County, farmers are counting losses following the death of cows in Nyatike. The animals allegedly consumed contaminated water from the mining field.
Ilienda kwa mtu wakakunywa maji ambayo iko na sumu. Alafu nilitafuta huyo mama, tukakuja naye mpaka hapa. Tukifika hapa nikakuta ng'ombe imelala mengi hapa. Na kati ya hizo ng'ombe moja yao zilikuwa yangu na zingine zilikuwa inaungua, hata sasa hivi bado hawajapona.
Elsewhere, Bungoma County government has rolled the Moderna vaccine in the ongoing war against COVID-19. Locals have been advised against mixing vaccines. Finally, a family in Kuguma, Murang'a County are nursing injuries after their house burst into flames following a gas explosion.
Ni mfanyakazi huko Kigoma. Nilichomeka ya gas, lakini sijui ni nini ilifanya.
On Sunday nilipata ajali ya moto nitokana kwa nyumba, na kulikuwa na watoto kwa nyumba, nikajaribu kuwaokoa.
Reporting for Prime Edition, Amwamboi Otiende.
Now, we'll take a break, but before we go, remember, we do have an interview. Brian is right on standby, and he will be speaking to Dr. James Nyoro on food security. That is coming up shortly.
Arambe! Sasa kitu kimoja ningetaka kuomba mzee kusema. Asante mzee. Na mimi tunakaa miaka mingi, 6 hapa na 10 huko. Mambo yote mimi najua yote, tulisema long time. Na hakuna hata kidogo ile konda kombo. Yote ni sawa sawa. Lakini mimi napiga jicho, sikuwa na mzungu, sikuwa na muhende, siku yote. Mimi ngeuliza, bendera hii tunakula bendera bwana mzee. Biashara tunataka.
We bring you a weekly health show where we will give you an opportunity to learn about some of the common illnesses and even how to avoid them, to help you make an informed health decision and even get some important information regarding how to improve your health. Every week, you will be joined by health experts within their own field, even as we discuss preventions to health issues. Your Health Show, every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. with me, Purity Museo, only on KBC.
Kupitia uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali imewekeza zaidi katika ukarabati na upanuzi wa miradi ya unyunyiziaji maji mashamba kote nchini. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254,
we must empower our farmers with the information necessary to increase their output, reduce their unit cost of production, and therefore significantly improve returns on their investment.
Zamani tulikuwa tunapewa msaada wa chakula na siku hizi tunajitegemea sisi wenyewe.
Wametupatia kitu ya muhimu ambayo hakitakwisha. Kitu tutaendelea kuvuna, kila wakati tutaendelea kuvuna kutoka kwa hayo maji.
Well, tonight, as of course we had alluded earlier, we want to discuss the question of food security in this country. And if I can give you some very interesting statistics, is that about 2.1 million Kenyans are facing starvation in this country. And the situation is actually worse in about 23 counties. And the question is this: we have been here before, we are likely to be here again in the future if we do not put the necessary measures in place. So what exactly do we need to do, and what are we not doing right? To help us in this conversation, we are joined by Dr. James Nyoro. He is the chairperson of he's the governor of Kiambu County. He's also a former director with the Rockefeller Foundation. He's a former advisor to the president on food security as well as climate change, among other many posts in the past. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here.
I really appreciate. Thank you.
The question of food security, Dr. James Nyoro, is something that we have talked for quite a long time, including with you here in this studio. How comes we've never gotten it right?
Well, we've never gotten it right because we probably haven't addressed the real issue. You know that agriculture was devolved in 2010, in our 2010 constitution. And if there is a sector that is heavily devolved, it's agriculture. But even before the devolution in 2010, we were already in trouble as far as food security is concerned. And what I really would want us to do is to look at food security, but also look at drought and drought management. Because what drought and drought management or mismanagement does is to make a bad situation worse. So the point I'm making is that long before the 2010 constitution, we still were grappling with feeding ourselves. I think the last time we were able to feed ourselves was probably early to mid 70s. From about getting to late 70s, we started seeing the difference between production and consumption. Of course, two things were happening at the same time. Production was declining. Started stagnating, but then started declining because the soil quality, everything, all those issues. But also our population was growing. Remember, our population at one point was growing at 4-point-something%. So you are here in a kind of a dilemma, because on one hand, your production is not growing, and your population is growing at a very fast rate. There is urbanization. There are more people living in rural areas. So you get yourself into a situation where you have to do what the Malthusian rule says, that you have to grow your food geometrically and let the population increase arithmetically. Now, geometrically, it has to increase 3-fold, 4-fold. We didn't do that. So by the time we were devolving, we devolved a problem. So we told counties, take this problem. We've been unable to fix it. Go fix it. Now, you are telling 47 counties to go and fix a problem that you did not fix. And together with you as a national government, you have 48 problems. So basically, to answer your question, is that we never got it right. And the reason we did not get it right, and the only thing that you can do is to run from the ones who have gotten it right. And who is the best example here? It is Ethiopia. In 1984, you remember the drought of 1984?
Yep.
And the whole world sang, "We are the world." They went to Ethiopia, okay? Thereafter, Ethiopia started to manage itself, and the former prime minister before these two, what was his name?
Haile Mariam Desalegn.
No, Haile Mariam Desalegn took over from that other prime minister, Mengistu, yeah? He decided to do 3 things. And today, because of those 3 things, Ethiopia is a surplus food producer. They are actually sending beans to northern Kenya. The first thing that he did was to allocate. By the way, it's a long story, but we cannot continue with it because he got caught up into the problem, and he went looking for a solution. And he went to Bill Gates, who was my employer in 2016, and he said, "How can I fix it?" And he said, "Are you willing to fix it?" Yeah, okay, let's go study the problem. Do 3 things. 1, allocate more money in agriculture. Ethiopia allocated over 12% of its money, of its budget in agriculture. But Ethiopia, remember, is also devolved in a way because they have regions.
Yeah.
Okay? So what they did, the second thing they did was coordination. They made sure that there is coordination between the national government and the regions. We have given you the money, but we have to know and understand how you are using it. They made sure they formed an ATA, Agricultural Transformation Agency, whose role was to make sure that even within government, national government, there is coordination. Agriculture is the only sector that will have to depend on roads, have to depend on energy, it has to depend on environment. If you are in Garana Kuraru, it has to depend on tourism because wildlife is there. It has to depend on rats. It has to depend on forestry. It has to depend on finance. Unless you have clear coordination within those ministries and then coordinate with the regions, okay, you will not get it right. Does not matter whether you allocated enough money. So that's the second thing that he did. Coordination. Coordination within the regions and coordination within government itself. And the third thing that they did was accountability. We've given you, what are you going to do? You are going to produce so many tons of teff in one of the regions. We are going to produce so many tons of wheat in another region. We have given you the money. We've given you the roads. We've given you, account for us. Where is the teff? Where is the wheat? Accountability came in. Out of those 3 things, Ethiopia has been able to transform itself. You know, it has one of the highest population outside Nigeria in Africa, but it has been able to feed itself, and now it's feeding us.
Look, you've talked about 3 things. And when you look at the Kenyan situation, I mean, we have some of the best policymakers in this country, in the African continent. And so the issues of policy formulation cannot be a big challenge. When you look at our funding, to agriculture, well, we may not be at 10%, but now we're talking about 5.5%. So how comes, even with those 2 things, and of course, one would say that there is also a very serious political goodwill when you look at the Big 4 agenda on food and nutrition. So how comes still we're groping in dark?
First of all, you have to appreciate the magnitude of your problem and then allocate resources with respect to the magnitude of your problem. So what are we talking about here? Because I said we are talking about 2 things to answer your question. The first thing that we you have to look at is what is the problem? Food insecurity, what does that mean? We are now talking about 2 million people who are going hungry and increasing. Now, those are people in famine-stricken areas. Under normal circumstances, even when there is no famine, 30% of Kenyans are food insecure, meaning they will probably not eat a meal, or they will eat 1 meal a day. They are eating less than the 2,200 calories that is required for a normal human being. So you have to look at the magnitude of the problem. Kenya is spending in excess of 250 billion shillings to import basic food commodities. I mean, we can only produce 25% of our rice needs. We import 75% of our wheat from Pakistan, from all over the place. Wheat, we can only produce 20% from Transmara and Meru and wherever. 80% of our wheat needs is imported from outside. Sugar, we were doing very well with Mumias and Ramisi and the others, and at that point we were only importing 40%. Now I think we are importing 60%
Actually 65.
65% of our sugar needs. Maize, I mean, which every Kenyan should be able to grow outside your backyard. To be honest with you, although we don't like talking about it, we are importing on a normal year something in excess of 30% of our maize needs from Tanzania and from Uganda. And now beans coming from Ethiopia, and potatoes coming from Rwanda. That should shock you. And onions coming from Tanzania. So the magnitude, so I'm saying, you start with that magnitude of a problem of an import bill of 250 billion, which means that you are exporting jobs and you are importing poverty.
And killing industry.
And say, how are you, because you see, if you have such a big gap, first of all, you cannot fix it in a day, okay? And then you have to have a multifaceted way of fixing it. And one of the ways that we thought a multifaceted way is, first of all, you have to come in and do a Garana Kuraru kind of project, while at the same time not marginalizing the farmers in North Rift, but making sure that the farmers in the North Rift are facilitated to move to the next level of production, so that they move from maize and maybe they can come to avocado, they can come to whatever, and they can buy their food. So you have to have a Marshall Plan. So I'm telling you, the reason why we can't fix it is that we have not understood the magnitude of the problem. The problem is big. It does not require you to sit one day. And I really appreciate putting food security as one of the big four. That was really a bold step. But we have to ask, how much resources have we put into one of those big four in order to commensurate with the problem that we're having?
When the project Galana Kulalu, kicked off in 2014, you are the advisor to the president on food security and climate change. From the paper, it looked like it was a great project. But how many years down the line, almost 6 years down the line, we're still grappling with the issue of Galana Kulalu. How did we get it wrong?
Well, first of all, I think we have to appreciate that the concept was right. We sat together and we said, with the kind of figures that we are talking about, how can we quickly bridge the gap? And we said we'll bridge the gap by, first of all, going large scale, but at the same time supporting small scale, because, it's not either or. So the option was good. Whether or not we could have done 1 million acres, that's a 1 million acre question, okay? The real issue is that, did we do a real feasibility study? Okay, did we face the facts as they were? And I will just give you a few facts to tell you that we didn't. Okay, and we highlighted some of this, but I'll tell you the definition of an advisor is that somebody who is supposed to tell you what to do, but I should not hold you accountable on whether or not you do what
whether you do it or you don't.
By the time River Garana gets to Garana, it has probably about 25% of the water remaining. Okay, so it comes from top. By the time it's in Garana, it has about 25% of the water remaining. Now you cannot abstract 100% of the 25%. So assuming that you could abstract 15%, to leave 10% to flow all the way to Malindi, the 15% could only have done up to a maximum of probably 20,000 acres. Okay, so if you are depending on the river.
So the river did not have capacity in the first place?
Well, that's what we are saying. And we recommended, and it was in the feasibility study, that for this project to work, we need to put up a dam upstream. Okay? For us to put a dam, and the feasibility study was done by Israelis on a dam upstream. For you to put up a dam upstream, and we were talking about now 2014, November, you know, the best contractor would probably have taken 24 months. Okay? So 24 months takes you to probably end of 2016. Now, even if you complete the dam, it required the wrong rains to fill. That is 2017. And we were going for elections in 2017. So the planning is, you see, that's what I'm talking about, Marshall Plan. If you want to do 1 million acres, 1 million acres is done by so much water.
Yeah.
How much of that water is available and how much of that water will you tap from outside? Okay, we even had technologies, because we were having Israelis, we had technologies of getting aquifers. You remember, that was more or less the same time when we got aquifers in Turkana. Okay, but then it turned out that the water was salty. So we were using that technology to check if we could get aquifers in order to enhance the water availability to move to 300 or 400,000 acres.
Tell me this, Daktari. I mean, because when you look at Vision 2030, it talks about Galana Kulalu irrigation scheme, to deal with the recurrent issue of hunger in this country. Is there any way we can get it right?
Yes, there is. The first thing that you do, and this is project planning, is a book called Gitija. Okay? It was written by a guy who was working in the World Bank, and it's about project planning. And it starts by, you have to understand the magnitude of your problem. Two things. First of all, I have to tell you point blank that for us to fix the food security problem in Kenya, it has to be done by both large scale and small scale production. It is neither or. Now, you can do up the maximum that you can do in Karanakuraru. I think under the Big Four, the president has done fantastically well, because there is quite a lot of effort. I understand they've increased the number of acres, but like I said, how many more acres can you do without the dam? Okay, what we started thinking about around that time is that the 1 million acres doesn't have to be necessarily be in Karanakuraru. We can have 100 or 20 or 50,000 acres in Pekera. We can have another 20,000 acres in Turkana. You can have another 50,000 in Roa Muranga. All of them will add up to a million. Okay, so we wanted to start thinking that 1 million does not necessarily mean it all has to be in the same place. In fact, I wanted to tell you that one of the other things that we were considering is that Garana opened into the Indian Ocean. And that time we were having Al-Shabaab area. So defense was also to be part of the planning that we were thinking about. And I'm happy the president today was in Ram talking about that. But I want to tell you that this situation has even become more complicated. Because now you are talking about, at that time we were talking about one government. We were talking about the national
Now you have 47 more.
Now you have 48 governments. You have 47 more governments. The question really is, we have to do what other countries have done. The countries that have devolved agriculture, US, for instance, or even South Africa. If you go to South Africa, if you go to Bloemfontein, they specialize in a particular commodity. Okay? If you go to the US, if you are in California, it is apples. If you are in Florida, it is oranges. If you are in Kansas, it is dairy. Okay? Now the government needs to sit, and I've said this, we need to sit together and identify the comparative advantage of each of these counties.
And
then the government should be able to provide an incentive of money saying, you Kiambu, you have a comparative advantage of producing coffee.
Go for it.
If you want to produce maize, go produce maize. But we are not going to work with you to produce maize. We are going to work with you to produce coffee. That's what. So the national government calls Kiambu the coffee county. They go to us in Gishu and they do everything to make sure that we have mechanized, and they call it the maize county. And they will do coffee and others.
Dr.
That rapport between the national government, I'm the chair of the Agriculture Committee at COG.
Yeah.
Okay, but that rapport is not there.
It is what is missing.
It is missing.
Tell me this. Look, because we have to wind up in the interest of time. The Kenyan population has doubled in the last 25 years. It is also going to double in the next 25 years. You know, when you look at population growth trajectory in this country. And so has the number of people who are in dire need of food every year. And you are talking about 10%. So we are likely to have 20% of the population, which will double in the next 25 years, in dire need of food. How do we forestall that kind of a problem?
We can forestall that kind of a problem if we go back to what other countries did. We are not the only country that has been caught up in this quagmire. If you remember what happened in Asia, it was exactly that food production was growing arithmetically, and the population was growing geometrically. And Madhusian, one of the others, or economists, came up with a doomsday, that there will be a time when there will be too many people without food.
Yeah.
And what they did was the Green Revolution in Asia. And if you look at the Green Revolution in Asia, and I keep on talking about this book. I think the author, Stedman, he should give me a prize. There's a book called How Asia Works. And the book talks about what you need to do to fix agriculture. And what you need to do to fix agriculture is, first of all, like I said, appreciate the problem, put more money into agriculture, put more money in agricultural research. How much money are we putting in agricultural research? Put more money in extension. Counties are unable to do extension, and we blame counties also because they inherit a problem and they have done nothing about fixing it. There are new models now of doing extension. Put more money in borrowing, in financing. What I'm saying is that you have to sit down, just like a patient and a doctor, identify the problem and say, we are going to fix it within the next 10 years. We know that we cannot be all over the place. So we have identified 15 counties that are our breadbasket, and we are going to give them incentives to produce the food. But for us to do that, we have to appreciate the problem. I don't think the policymakers in Kenya, including us governors, have really appreciated the problem that we are in, including the drought that is recurrent, that comes in every 3 years.
Nyoro, in 1 minute, if we do not do what you are prescribing, what will happen in the next 10, 15 years?
We will be spending all our earnings on food imports, because remember, other countries are actually producing. The fact that we are not producing does not mean that New Zealand or even Uganda here or Tanzania are not producing. If we are spending 250 billion today, in another 5 or 6 years we'll be spending 500, 600 billion. Okay, just the way we import oil, we'll be importing food. And that's the doomsday that we are talking about.
I hope you are wrong.
I hope I'm wrong too, but who would want to see that kind of situation?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Otherwise, thank you very much indeed for your insight.
Great.
And of course for finding time to be with us here and sharing, of course, your expertise on these issues. And I hope that the policymakers and policy implementers have listened to you, and of course we'll get to a point where we do the right thing at the right time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Asante sana. Dr. James Nyoro is the governor of Kiambu County, as well as an agricultural economist, well versed on matters food security, joining us tonight here to help us understand what do we need to do as a country to make this nation a food secure nation. You have heard it from him. Thank you very much. You're watching the Prime Edition. Stay right here.
You didn't tell me it was this breathtaking.
Maridadi ndio hayo.
This week on Zurura, we visit a not-too-distant relative.
Nimeambiwa story mingi kuhusu.
We also dig deep to discover our African roots and venture into the devil's kitchen.
Tumeingia kitchen.
That's coming right up on Zurura. Find your adventure.
Where am I? I don't even know where I am. I don't want to hear a peep until morning. In fact, why don't you all sleep? What?
So what happened?
Or she found a richer, better looking option.
She's not my wife.
You don't want it? Or would you prefer some of that bad chicken?
Welcome back. Now let's catch up with business. The government has come up with policies, among them automotive policy developed and approved by the cabinet to boost manufacturing sector and increase demand of locally manufactured goods both in Kenya and regionally. Addressing the press in Mombasa during the tour of the Export Processing Zone's Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Enterprise Development, Betty Minor, said the policies are guided by legal notices number 84/2019 and 112/2020, pushing for more local content.
The trade CS has further urged investors to take advantage of the special economic zones to expand their base in Kenya. Speaking during a tour of various export promotion zones in Mombasa, CS Minor said Kenya's journey to industrialization has been boosted by the special economic zones in Nakuru and Mombasa counties.
The policy was adopted by Cabinet at the beginning of this year, but different facets of the policy are actually in implementation already. Those legal notices have prescriptions within them for local content. Goods or parts of vehicles that must be sourced from Kenya.
Through the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya policy, the Associated Vehicle Assembly plans to make 6,000 vehicles, of which 300 will be delivered to the disciplined forces at an average cost of 2.5 million shillings. While visiting Revitol Healthcare EPZ, which manufactures medical supplies, CS Minor has said the government has prioritized the pharmaceutical sector as a source of creating employment to Kenyans.
The pharmaceutical sector is one of the sectors that we have prioritized within the manufacturing Big Four agenda. And the reason for doing that is twofold. One, it creates jobs. Today we have seen more than 500 people at work in this one factory. I'm extremely proud of the fact that many of them are girls.
For Prime Edition from Mombasa County, I'm Michael Mondiga.
Now, Kenya Railways has delayed resumption of cargo and passengers services to December this year following completion of refurbishment of rolling stock and the line between Nakuru and Kisumu. Kenya Railways Managing Director Philip Mainga says the meter gauge railway between Nakuru and Kisumu has been undergoing trials and is now ready for use pending official commissioning.
The major rehabilitation works along the 216-kilometer stretch between Nakuru and Kisumu have been completed. This means that in the near future, you will now be able to make a 20-hour trip from Mombasa to Malaba after the entire loop is fully connected.
Currently, we have repaired the line. I can assure you the line from Naivasha to Nakuru, Kisumu is ready. We are preparing for operations in the next 2 months or 3 months. And that excitement goes with, number one, because somehow we have started moving slowly some containers or some cargo across the line. People have started now demanding that we run a passenger train.
During a tour of railway facilities at the Nairobi Central Station, it emerged that some more classes will also be introduced on the passenger trains to include special sleep coaches.
They are ready. We have our second class ready and our first original first class ready. You know what I mean by when I say original first class ready. Where we used to sleep, where we used to wake up, we used to wash our hands, we used to bath and enjoy the train. This is coming back.
The 63-kilometer stretch between Kisumu and Butere will be operationalized with the aim of promoting trade in the agricultural-rich Western Kenya. At the same time, the Nairobi Transit Shed that mainly handles cargo by small businesses has so far processed 3,000 TEUs since its inception last year.
We have spoken to the consolidators, we have spoken to some of the traders, and I think we want to really thank the government and Kenya Railways for having set up this center, which is a game changer in terms of trade, especially for the SMEs.
Our monthly estimation, where we expect to be every 1 month, is about 500 containers being cleared from this place. And this is basically what was happening before COVID. The SMEs would bring about 500 containers.
Now, these are some of the comforts that has been missing on the Nairobi-Kisumu route. Rail transport for 15 years has been missing on that particular corridor. But Kenya Railways promises Kenyans that in 3 months' time, they'll be able to travel seamlessly from Nairobi to Kisumu. Alan Aoko, Prime Edition.
Thank you, Alan, for that report. Now, community boreholes are now very precious and key source of water for drought-stricken residents of Garissa and Wajir, who are calling for construction of more of such water resources in the area. Water boozer owners in the area are earning from supplying water to herders and residents who would have otherwise been forced to trek tens of miles to and from the community boreholes. As Nancy Okware narrates, herders living in the proximity of Tana River are slowly and steadily diversifying to irrigation to address food challenges.
In the 10 counties facing the adverse effects of drought, Garissa and Wajir are among the worst affected due to depleted water and pasture. Herders are forced to trek tens of miles in hot and dusty landscapes in search of water at community boreholes with their emaciated livestock, with some of the animals dying along the way. This area in Wajir County is about 10 kilometers from the Kenya-Somalia border. Families who had moved to the neighboring Somalia in search of water are sighing in relief following construction of the solar-powered Karura borehole under the Kenya Development Response to Displacement Impacts project by the government and World Bank.
It is the communities themselves that identify what they want. And then they prioritize, because we tell them this financial year we are having this small amount of money. What will be your priority? And they will tell you, our priority is solar. Our priority is a borehole, water pan. Then we put that priority and finance it.
The borehole has capacity to supply water to over 25,000 people.
Watu wanakuja hapa, watu ile hata gari ndio wanasimama wanapeleka maji kwa bandi ile nyingine kwa Somalia. Majority wa gari wanachukua hapa maji, gari wanaenda bandi ile nyingine na inside.
You know, these pastorals, they all rely on grass. They go to areas where they have rain. The last rain we got from this border was a bit okay, as compared to that side of Western Plains. So that's why they are migrating to this point, Somalia border.
Such community boreholes have presented a business opportunity to water boozer owners who have been trucking water to pastoralists on the move. In a day, 10 water boozers fetch water from this borehole at a cost of 1,700 shillings.
Ila fare ya mafuta na mafanyakazi na ile ingine shida akitoka kwa engine na bandile ingine unawea tunatengeneza. Sasa hii ndio narekebisha kwa ile kukunya kwa mbuzi mahali inaharibika. Sasa hii sisi tunarekebisha. Besha ya kutengeneza hii unatoka kwa water boozers na ile ingine.
Similar water trucking efforts are ongoing in Garissa County. This is Lamahuran Farm in Fafi constituency. Irrigation using water from River Tana has proved effective, with farmers growing a variety of crops such as maize, bananas and mangoes in their journey towards food security.
Na ile tomato ile tuliweka tulipata 184,000 Kenya shillings kama faida net. Alafu tumepanda hiyo kitunguu sasa. Tunatarajia tunaweza kupata kama 300,000. Alafu maembe iko ups and downs. Good season about 200,000.
Despite the ongoing mitigation efforts by the government and development partners, residents of northeastern Kenya are calling for construction of more boreholes and water ponds, which they say would support irrigation for growth of food and pasture. Nancy Okwari, Prime Edition.
Have you ever filed a tax return and ended up with a negative figure on the tax compilation sheet? As Caroline Jenga narrates on tonight's episode of Tax 101, a negative figure does not imply that you have a tax due. Instead, it means that you need to be refunded for excess amount paid.
A tax refund is a reimbursement of excess tax paid or tax paid in error during a given period. It arises when the tax liability is less than the taxes paid. There are different types of refunds, which include value-added tax, income tax, excise duty, and stamp duty. Upon filing an individual income tax return, a tax refund can arise in case an employer fails to grant relief to an employee who has an insurance policy or a mortgage on owner-occupied property. Insurance policies considered for tax relief purposes are education and life policies. For an individual with a mortgage to qualify for a tax relief, the mortgage must be from specific financial institution as listed on the 4th Schedule of Income Tax Act. An income tax refund can also arise where a taxpayer has not been granted a personal relief during the year. Additionally, a tax refund arises where tax deducted at a source is in excess of the final liability. For income tax, the documents required include tax deduction card, commonly known as Form P9, for claims relating to excess pay-as-you-earn deductions, insurance policy certificates for claims relating to insurance relief, mortgage certificate from a financial institution for claims relating to interest on mortgage, and withholding tax certificates for claims relating to tax deducted at source. The current VAT refund scheme provides for VAT refunds when tax paid in error and excess credits as a result of zero-rated supplies and refund of tax on bad debts. In the case of tax paid in error, the claims should be lodged within 12 months from the date the tax was paid. In the case of a bad debt, a tax refund is paid to a VAT-registered business person who has accounted and paid tax on a supply but has not received any payment after a period of 3 years from the date of that supply. Claims for refund for bad debt should be made within 5 years. Caroline Jenga for Prime Edition.
To wheat imports now, where the government says it will continue regulating wheat imports until the 250,000 bags of wheat held by farmers in Upper Narok is mopped up by millers. Agriculture and Food Authority Acting Director General Kelo Hassamer says millers have so far purchased 300,000 from farmers at the set minimal price.
So far imported 5,090,000 kilo bags of wheat out of the 20 million bags they had requested to be allowed to ship in to bridge the deficit.
Kabla ya watu kuleta wheat kutoka ngambo, wacha kwanza tuuze wheat yetu.
However, the government says despite the deficit, it will control wheat importation until millers mop up all wheat held by farmers from the previous harvest.
Bei ile tumeweka mwaka huu ya ngano ni shilingi 3,700 na hiyo ni minimum ya ile inaitwa grade 1 ya ngano. Na kusema minimum ni 3,700 ni kusema mkulima anaweza uza hata 4,000 hata zaidi.
The government predicts reduced wheat importation in the coming seasons due to growing acreage under the crop as farmers take advantage of good prices. The country's annual wheat production stands at 2 million bags against an annual consumption of 24 million bags, with Kenya forced to import to bridge the deficit.
My name is Fikiri Kiponda. I am a wildlife warrior. The soft plastics, they look like jellyfish, which turtle end up confusing with their natural food.
She's finished laying her eggs and now she's covering them up. She swipes with her fins, chucking sand into the pit behind her where the eggs are.
Some turtle will do like 7 clutches.
This tiny crab could actually kill a baby turtle.
Turtle needs everyone's help. Otherwise, they might get into extinct.
This is Wildlife Warriors.
I can't resist her, brother. Billa's stunning. Be careful moving. Billa is our father's woman. You are a disgrace to our house, a dishonor upon our family.
Stop it!
I want Dina to be my wife. I am a Hebrew, sir. I am here because my brother sold me as a slave to Jatur, the slave trader. Your own brothers? They sold you? What is your name, boy? My name is Joseph, sir. I miss my mother and my father terribly. I miss my family, my brother Benjamin, and my sister Dina.
Well, good evening. My name is Richard Munga with the latest in sports. Now, Janet Bundi netted a brace as Kenya Women Premier League champions Vihiga Queens beat Kayole Starlets 3-0 to sail to the final of the inaugural FKF Women's Cup. In another match, Lindsay Starlets thrashed Kisumu All Starlets 4-2 to also book a spot in the finals. Janet Bundi opened the scoring with a brilliant second-minute volley before Shikangwa doubled the lead with a penalty in the 23rd minute. Vihiga was to seal the victory 5 minutes into the second half when Bundi completed her brace with a fine finish, lifting the ball over the advancing Kayole keeper after running to a long ball. Shikangwa came close to adding the fourth in the 53rd minute, but her header from Bundi's cross at the back post hit the upright.
Now tukirudi home kuna kitu tumelearn kwa hii game, so kabla tufike finali tutakuwa tumerekebisha sababu haijakuwa game ya pressure sana, so from there hauwezi jua, hauwezi compare na opponents.
Naweza sema game imekuwa poa. Vihiga ni timu iko poa, so according to me kidogo game plan ili work kidogo ika loss kiasi, but tumeangalia venye tumeconcede goals, so lazima tuweke defense line yetu, given that tumekaamini kama pre-season, alafu kuna maplayers wangecheza juu walicheza teams zingine, so pia hiyo imekuwa challenging, so niliave tu kuwa kuna wale players wako though walikuwa less.
They will now meet with Ulinzi Starlets in the final, the latter having beaten Kisumu All Starlets 4-2 in Kisumu in the other semi-final match. All congratulations to Ulinzi Starlets and Vihiga Queens. As we all remember, Vihiga Queens have been on a roll, of course, winning the Women's Premier League in Kenya and also qualifying as the sole ticket holder in East Africa to represent the East African region in the inaugural CAF Champions League for ladies. Now, to other matters, the Uganda Under-20 women national team jetted into the country today ahead of this weekend's FIFA Under-20 Women World Cup qualifier. The Kenyan Rising Starlets, meanwhile, had a session early morning today as they step up preparations for Saturday's match. The biennial tournament will be held from the 10th of August to 28th of August in Costa Rica, with 16 teams expected to participate. Kenya Under-20 women's national team Rising Starlets is scheduled to face Uganda in the second round of the 2022 FIFA Under-20 Women World Cup qualifiers. The first leg is slated for Saturday at 3 p.m. in Nyayo National Stadium, with the return leg on October 8th, 2021 in Uganda. Preparations for the two-leg knockout qualifier started off with a selection exercise on September 15th under the tutelage of Harambee Starlets coach Charles Okere.
Game ya weekend, mi niko sure tumejipanga vizuri, kila mtu anajua chenye anafaa kufanya, makocha wametuprepare vizuri, na mi niko sure tukijituma tu tutashinda.
It's my first time, it's my first experience. I've never been in the national team, and so I'm very happy and I'm ready to work, because at first we were many and God made me to work, gave me the strength, and here I am today. I'm very happy. I've worked to my limit.
The squad has since been trimmed to 30 players who are all eager to feature in the biennial International Women's Youth Football Championship in Costa Rica. The winner of the tie on aggregate will face the winner of the second round tie, pitting Mozambique against South Africa. Meanwhile, Deputy Inspector General of Police Edwin Mbogwa has hailed the Kenya Police football team for displaying an exemplary performance which saw them make a return to the FKF Premier League. Mbogwa also promised to support the team to produce better results ahead of the new season, which kicks off this weekend as police play away to Kakamega Homeboys at the Bukungu Stadium.
At a luncheon purpose to congratulate the team after being promoted to the FKF Premier League, Deputy Inspector General of Police Edward Mbogwa hailed the Kenya Police football team and urged them to register better results in the next season as the team takes on Kakamega Homeboys in their first top-flight match on Sunday at the Bukungu Stadium. The head coach Bobby Ogola has promised to lead the team to a top 3 finish next season.
We are overjoyed by your performance, but kianza kupanda muti hiyo ni kazi, lakini kushuka chini mara moja, kwa sababu ukishuka pale ukatae kujishikilia utaanguka tu, hata you not finish even 2 seconds kuja chini. Kwa hivyo hapo umefika because ya bidii yako.
After the first game, the weakness that I saw was lack of self-confidence, and when we came back for training here, I just told the players to believe in themselves. And with the mode of training that we applied, I think the boys developed gradually, bit by bit, and we won some games and drew a few. We have never lost since then. Of the 11 games that followed.
On Sunday, Kenya Police beat Vihiga United 1-0 at Utalii grounds as they won the promotion playoff 2-1 on aggregate to gain promotion to next season's Football Kenya Federation Premier League. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Dan Mwendwa.
Also, 5 Kenyan boxers have been bundled out of the ongoing 58th edition of the World Military Boxing Championships in Moscow, Russia. Light flyweight Abednego Matilu, featherweight Pauline Shege, bantamweight Samuel Njau, welterweight Crispin Moremi and super heavy Fred Ramogi gave a good fight but lost to superior opponents. Njau gave a good show against Algeria's Osama Mourjedden but narrowly lost on points. Heavyweight Frederick Onyango and lightweight Washington Wandera have also been bundled out of this year's championship. Kenya is among 36 countries that are taking part alongside boxing powerhouse Algeria, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Well, that's all the time we have for Sports Tonight, Cynthia, but congratulations to actually most of the women's national teams in Kenya, not only national teams but also individual clubs.
Yes.
As we had Lionesses, despite losing 72-50 to Mozambique in the AfroBasket Championship.
Yes.
They really did show a good account of themselves, and we have Starlets taking on Uganda on Saturday.
Yes.
So we do wish them all the best.
We'll be following that up on Saturday.
I hope so. We definitely will.
Yes, thank you so much, Munga. And from the rest of the team right here in studio, we do wish you a good evening.
College. Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret, Thika and Meru. Did you know that we are a TVET approved institution? We offer courses in fashion design, interior design in soft furnishing, event decoration, flower arrangement, event planning, hairdressing, barbering and dreadlocks, beauty therapy, makeup, nail technology, spa massages, teaching skills, TOT, solo business management, and many more. Register now and visit our website on www.verabeautycollege.com. You can also call on 0725 923 550 Nairobi branch, 0728 087 689 Eldoret branch, 0722 22 7428 Thika branch, 0725 00